Hello everybody and welcome to this afternoon session, Mixed Media Digital Painting with Photographs. My name is Tom Sternat. I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and would like to thank all of our partners in this project that allow us to make this happen. So we want to thank the Canada Council for the Arts, and then we have our library partners. So we have the Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library, and thanks again for joining us. So today is a pretty exciting session. We're going to look at how do we take some photos, how do we import them into the Affinity Designer program we're going to be using, and how can we then paint with this. So we're basically taking photos and manipulating them into like a mixed media concept of painting on top of the photos, making it a blend, totally painting over it, and it's just a bit of an experimentation and augmenting what is the reality of a photograph and going beyond just filters and post-processing, but actually doing a painting technique on top of it. So it's a great way to have a guiding, kind of a guideline of what is underneath as our subject matter and being able to paint on top of that. So it's a really fun way to explore painting and also doing a mixed media process where we combine photos that we just take and bring them together as paintings. Okay, so let's continue on. So what we'll look at today is the Affinity Designer software, and this is available for the iPad, Mac OS, and Windows systems. It's a low-cost software and app that is about between $25 to $70 for the full desktop versions. Right now there's a 50% off, so it goes on sale once in a while. There's different promos, but very affordable, one-time cost, and then you have it forever. And so it's a great tool to use alongside your photos. And what I love about it is that it can be used on an iPad. So we'll talk about that more. We'll look at the process for painting with photographs, starting a project. Then we'll look at the layers and building the design with the brush and line strokes. And then, how do we, place those photos into there? And then, how do we export it and get other people to be able to see what we've done in our project? So it's that will be the concept. So what is the Affinity Designer software? So here's just a screenshot. Current version is 1.9. Works on Mac OS, Windows, and now it's also available on an iPad. It also works and it's certified with the M1 Apple processor chips, so that's good news too. If you've recently bought one of those M1 processor-based Apple computers, then you're good to go. In terms of the iPads, it's again low cost, about $25. I think it comes to Canadian dollars, and really versatile app, and it's pretty cool. Like the same features on the desktop are available on the iPad. I don't see big differences. So we'll look at doing both and kind of that process. Now, if you are looking just to access this, you've taken some photos and then you want to just take a peek and try this out before there's I think right now there's a 90-day trial. There's usually a 30-day trial, so you can try it at no cost. And I also encourage everyone to go to our library partners where computers will be or are available. And so that's at the Blue Mountains Public Library. We have 2 iMacs there that have this software on it. And we also have an iMac at the Wasaga Beach Public Library. And that's going to be available in the next coming weeks, just as everything reopens again. And we will be adding more stations, so stay tuned for that. Collingwood Public Library will be getting iMacs as well. So really exciting. Everything we talked about today. If you don't have your own computer or anything, that's fine, just watch. You can see how things are done. You can re-watch this again later. We'll keep the links up. We'll post this on our YouTube channel so you can keep reviewing this and getting to this again in the future. But that way you can get to a library in case, if you don't have access to a computer or if you want like a larger workstation to work with, we welcome that visit and get to the libraries and try the software out there. Okay, so moving along. So what's the process? Pretty simple. This is what you'd expect. You would capture, for this digital painting with photographs, we need to capture photos with a camera. So I did some photos directly with my iPad or with an iPhone, tablet, with a DSLR, like a photo camera, and anything like that. Take a picture, that's the first step. Now, There's going to be different ways where it's placed. So on Mac iOS devices, it goes into your photos bin. Other devices, you may need to offload it and put it into on a hard drive. So on the desktops, you will generally put it into a local storage or external hard drive, however it is, or SD card, and make that work. Then you will open the Affinity Designer software. We start a project. We place the photo into the project. Then we start to add layers, and then we paint over the photo. Then, essentially any style is possible, and the final mixed media project can be a blend where you still see the original photo, or it could be something that's completely painted over. And that's the fun part. You decide, how much does it still look like the photo, or how many elements of that, how much is it more just like totally painted over. And that kind of realism, the photorealism can stand through what you're painting. So this is a really great project if you're starting out in digital painting. This is a great way to get accustomed to how the brushes work, how the tools work, by using that photorealistic background. And that could be, again, a guideline. It could also be something that stays there somewhat in place so that, pops out a bit of the realism, and with some, stylized painting on top of it. So that's the really neat thing. So it's a great way to get into digital painting. It's nothing that's too challenging, and it's pretty simple. So we'll have some fun on looking at how that can work very easily. Okay, so here's an example of something that I just did. So I had not too much experience in the Affinity Designer software, and I have experience with the Adobe Creative Suite product. So I was able to jump right onto it. So I think people always ask that question: how different is it? Very similar, very straightforward to just jump on this software from, if you're using Adobe products to go into the Affinity world. So that's the good news. These are the Collingwood terminals. Just a picture that I took, and I painted over it. And this was done again in the Affinity Designer. And you can see just, trying to get the essence of what was there, leaving some of the photorealism of the walkways on top, and the some of the concrete underneath. So it's a really neat way to stylize and redraw what was in the photo, but keeping the essence of it. So I didn't have to worry about things like perspective. It's all in the photo. So again, it really starts to get, and in doing this, you start to understand and analyze what is out there. So the lines, the perspectives, the little details that you might not think of. So very standard thing. If you think about a lot of painters will take photos and then paint from those photos, paint on location where you're seeing the real subject, right? So that idea is timeless in terms of painting. So we're just taking that same concept and going from there. Okay, so just some questions in graphic design in general, and this kind of project. What in terms of what kind of size you might need. What will be used for. So in this demo, I'm going to just be making photos into other photos. So, if they're like a 4x6 photo, I'm going to make it into a 4x6 canvas. But maybe you need to make it bigger or smaller. Is this something that you might want to put onto video? So then you can use the video formats. Does it need to be really big? You want to print it big, put it up like in a gallery show that you want to be part of. And that's, then what kind of elements will you need? Like what photos, do you need to take those before, or take them, at some point before you get into it? Like I did today, I took some before, and I have some stock photos I'm using. And then maybe just some reference images too, beyond that. Maybe you want to combine photos and different elements and put them together. It could also be reference images of final products, other digital artists that you enjoy their work and you want to emulate, or be inspired by their styles. So that's reference images are great. Other artists are always great to see. What do they do, and look at those styles and reference them. So that's a really good approach as well. Okay, so let's go right into the demonstration. I'm gonna start with the iPad, then I'll go to the desktop version, and just so we can see both at work. So with the iPad, I'm gonna use an Apple Pencil, and the fun part with the Apple Pencil. So it's version 1 with the regular iPads. We do have an iPad Pro that you can take out from the Blue Mountains Public Library if you're a member there, that has the Apple Pencil 2, so it's ready as a drawing surface. Then on the desktop, I'm gonna do that just with a mouse to just, we'll look at the differences. What's it like to, use the pencil, that kind of surface, and then just using a mouse, and we'll see that, we can still achieve things. So there's really I don't want anyone to think that there's limitations. You work with what you have, and we can always, and with limitations comes style and experimentation and figuring things out differently. So in terms of the demonstration, what we'll do is we're going to look at placing photos and graphics, brush and pencil use. Then we'll look at some effects we can do, exporting files and format. So that'll kind of take us through what we're looking to do overall. Okay, so let's. What I'll do now is I have my iPad here. So I just have my iPad set up like this. I have my Apple Pencil, have a coffee ready to go, very important for the afternoon. And what I will do is we're gonna launch the Affinity Designer. So once you've loaded it in, you can check out, we have whole videos on loading or installing the software. So with the iPad versions, you go to the App Store, you find the software, and then you do a purchase. So you just need to have some sort of payment method for that one. And then with the desktop versions, we have a whole video on that, how to get that, install that onto Mac OS and Windows. And you can just start with the trial. So right now, after we finish this, you can go and do the trial, 90 days right now. And why not try it out and see how it goes. And again, for the app on the iPad, it's just about $25. So very low cost, robust piece of software. Okay, so I'm going to start it up. So I'm just going to click on that. So Affinity Designer, it's going to initialize, get the nice little screen. Okay, and what I'll do is let's just start a total new project. So I'm just going to go to the plus mark here, and let's just go right to the screen now. So I'm going to hit plus, and it looks like I might not have my Apple Pencil charged, which is always fun. So we're just going to do it by hand, which is not a problem. Okay, so new document, and what I'm going to do is choose, and then go over here to photo, and we're going to do this 6 by 4.5. We want to have it landscape. Hit OK. It's going to start it all up, which is great. And let's see, I might be able to just charge this up here. Let's do that. Okay. Now, the next thing here, what we're going to need to do is, you see, we just have the blank canvas. So I'm just taking so a lot of this is with your fingers. So you can just like zoom in or out on the canvas and kind of move it around to work with, which is great. So you can kind of get in there for details and go in and out. So it's really super simple. Just two fingers zooming in, out like this, and then so I'm zooming out, zooming in to make it bigger. So it's just a nice touch surface to be able to do that. Now what I want to do is I'm going to place a photo. So what we'll do is I'm just going to go up here, and oh, that's not it. I got to go right over here. And what we're going to do is, so under this little file folder on the top here, I want to make sure we can see this. And what I will do is, let me just go over to the screen here. So what's happening here, so I'm going to just zoom in here a little bit. I'm realizing we're not seeing everything on the other screen. So what I'm going to do is under the file folder right here on the top, I'm going to go to place image. And now I'm going to import from my photos. And I'm just going to go to my most recent one. So this is my photos bin. So on an iPad, it's just whatever I've been taking recently. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to get these trees that I took just outside of the studio here. And now it's just waiting for me to click to place it. So I'm just going to tap, and now we've placed our photos right there. So we have this is our canvas. So I'm just going to zoom out here a little bit so we can see the whole canvas. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to add some layers. So right up here, it's going to get it nice and close here because it doesn't show us these on the feed. So I'm going to hit right here. There's this layer button. And I'm going to do plus. And I'm going to do pixel layer. Okay, and we're ready to go. So you can see we've just created, we have our photo layer. photo, and you see the pixel layer. So that's the two layers. So now when I paint, that's going to be a layer on top, and I can turn it on or off with the check mark. So that's really really great to work that way. Okay, so now what I can do is I can go to like a paintbrush tool. So they're just over here on the sides. Pencil, we're going to go to vector brush tool. Let's do that. Okay, and here's like the different sizes, so I can decide how big or small I want it. And it's going to kind of figure out a kind of a brown. That's nice. Right, so you can see how that what's happening with the painting, how I'm just kind of adding stuff right on top. Right, and we can keep going from there. So I'm going to just double tap with my fingers to undo those. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is just kind of reduce the opacity. So it's, you know, it's kind of a more mild, and make kind of a bigger width like this. Here's our brush editor. So I'm just going to look at kind of make it an interesting brush. So you can see I can just kind of paint over there and, you know, kind of get all these little elements in of the trees. Okay, and then I'm just going to reduce my my point size of that, and my brush tool here. And now what I'm going to do is just change the color a bit, go a little bit darker. Okay, and now in terms of the layers, all of this stuff is within this I can go piece by piece in terms of you know, how do I you know, make it work in terms of, here's a vector layer, so I'm just gonna go right there. So these can all be turned on or off, and you know, by turning it on or off, I can basically adjust what's there. So it's kind of a really cool way of having a super history that can then you know, be manipulated and used to, you know, enhance things or change things depending on how we want to you know, deal with it. So you know, that's always you know, a really neat a way to do that, right? So now in terms of the stroke size here, let's just get the right, get really nice and thin. And we're going to get some of these kind of darker trees here in the background. Okay, and I'm going to just keep adding some brush strokes through here, and really just interpreting, you know, what you know, how we're doing that, right? So, and now, so you can see it just by turning those layers on or off. It's the group of items there, which is really great. Okay, so I'm going to keep working there on that layer and get some more elements in here. Okay, and now let's reduce the opacity. So we'll really a faint idea, kind of really okay, that's kind of nice. So see, now I can kind of get these. I've gone to 14%. I'm just going to show you guys here. So we have it down to 14%. Let me focus in here. Here we go, right here. Right, so that's been reduced down, and this way it's just putting like this, this opacity. So it's really like feathering the paint in, right? So we want it to be pretty subtle, just kind of getting that ambiance of these trees happening here. And we're just trying to interpret, what do we see here? So there's all these trees. We're just trying to interpret, what does it look like? Okay, and now what we'll do is we're going to do another layer. So I'm just adding another vector layer. And now what we'll do is I'm going to actually put that one underneath everything we've done here. Okay, so you go right here, new vector layer right here. And by putting it underneath everything, we're going to be able to, have a little bit of a background concept here. Right, so now what I can do is, let's get out of the layers here. So let's put, let's play a little bit with our sky. So if we want a little bit of the kind of gray blue, so I'm just going to choose that. Make this a bit bigger. You can see I can start kind of filling in some of this gray sky a little bit as a painting. Paint in with the brushes. Okay, and now we're going to do a little bit of the greenery here. So you can see how we're just kind of filling in what's there in the photo and just trying to interpret it with our paint brushes. And we start to get that feeling of, okay, what is all this stuff in there, right? And it's really neat to abstract it and think of, what is the green and the brown, and very different concept. What is the essence of the forest we're seeing here? Right, so you can see how we're getting into this really neat idea of, what does this forest consist of? Just gonna undo those. Right, so we get from our basic photo, right, we're blending into this kind of forestry idea. And getting the essence of what is, what was and what there is underneath, right? that's it. That's our idea of just getting some trees, and I'm just trying to interpret, what do I see, how does that work, and and what are we basically seeing. So now what the cool thing is, I'm gonna just go to the bottom layer here, and just kind of turn off our photo underneath, and you can see how important the mixed media is, because that's just kind of my rough scratch painting on to get it started, and what's underneath it. And the combination is what really makes it work, because then we have those fine details of the original photo, and then we have and then we have the rest that can work together to make that combination really work well, right? So that's everything that we can do with the iPad. So I think it's really cool way to be able to work in having a photo, painting on top of it, and then going from there. So that's all there, and you can see by having all these layers, we're able to the bottom layer, and then I have all the curves are in each of these additional layers. So each layer that I made, there's a one layer here. Let me just get the focus there. So there's one layer right here, and then we're able to, you can check those on or off, and a lot of it is connected to that. So here's just what it looks like when I'm turning that whole layer off of the painting elements, right? You can go back and say, maybe I just want this much in my mixed media, just a little bit of paint on top of the original photo, and see what works. How much do we want in there? Like maybe we don't want these additional layers of painting there, right? So you can see how you can quickly turn them on or off, and that's the great thing about all the layers. It's a quick way to go back and forth and see what works the best in the overall feel of things. So that's using the iPad. Again, really simple, about $25 to get the iPad version. So highly recommend checking that out. And it's again a really great tool to be able to use. So here it is, kind of in that one completed concept. Again, abstracted from the original painting. And it's fun, and it's just learning what the shapes are, what the trees are, getting that essence of it. So then the next painting I can do is I can do a full digital painting, or maybe I want to continue this journey of the mixed media. So let's hop over to the actual the desktop here. So I'm just I have the Affinity photo launch. So here's what it looks like on the desktop version. So pretty similar, and I apologize, the iPad doesn't let you see the tools directly. So that's why I was just kind of struggling to get back and forth there, but at least we can see the essence of what we're trying to do. But here now you'll be able to see the tools more clearly. So this is the Affinity Designer surface, the user surface, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new file. So we've opened it up, and I'm going to do photo, and kind of similar. I'm going to do there's different, you can go to the presets. So there's print. I'll go to the photo. I'm going to do this 4D. So it's a 6 by 4.5 inches. Tons of other photos, so you can do 8 by 10s, whatever kind of size you want. But this is kind of what I just want to work in, because that's the size of the photo essentially. Now what we do now is we go over to the side here, and there's this little place image tool. So that's how we're going to start, and I just want to get to our layers here. So there are our layers, and let's add a layer. And what I'm going to do is place a photo. So what I'm going to do is, I got this nice photo I took of Niagara Falls. So you see it's ready, like it's loaded. What I need to do is click where I want it. It's going to just place it right there. So there we go. That's our first placement. And now I'm going to add another layer. And now what I can do is work with our brushes. And it's a little bit of an easier template or user interface than the iPad. There's more real estate on the screen, so you'll find things a little bit more easily. But what we can do now is we'll explore some of these other brush options. So what I'm going to do is get a brush tool going, and you can see the small circle showing kind of the size of the pixels of the width of that. So I can just make it a bit bigger, like so. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna just get to our color, but I'm gonna first choose a basic dry acrylic. So let's do that. And that's what it's gonna kind of do there. So again, we wanna work with some abstraction here. And now what I can do is for the color, I can choose, I'm going to get into something there. And this is the fun part is to, with your eye, instead of just with like an eyedropper, but I like to start like this, where just with my eye and trying to figure out kind of what is the color of like the water that I'm seeing. So I'm kind of seeing a little bit of blue, green, maybe it's more kind of around there. That's kind of neat, right? So I got my layer, and so now you can see I'm working right on top here of the falls. Got my nice acrylic dry brush. I'm just using a mouse. So, again, it's nothing fancy in terms of, what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. And let me just see, I can probably get you this other camera here too. Yeah, so there we go. That's my screen there. So all I'm using is just a mouse, and I'm just painting through. So we're just gonna kind of paint it through there, get the idea of the water. Right. So bit of a it's kind of a fun process. How does this all work, and what does it look like? And you can see it, the original photo still, kind of creeping through there a bit, which is neat. So we got a bit of water, and now, so this whole thing is on layer 2, which is great. So I can turn it off, and everything disappears. So it's all under the one. So I'll go again to the bottom here. I'm gonna hit, the add a layer button right there. So I get another layer, and now what I'm gonna do is play with a little bit of like, kind of shadow and highlights within there. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'm going to just play with the opacity and just make it a little more subtle so it's not so dark. And kind of getting that essence of, what was this water like? Kind of these dark spots. And then there's like that kind of white foam business as well. Okay, so now that's great for that layer. And I'm going to create another layer. And the reason I keep doing these additional layers is so that I can easily turn them on or off. So now I'm going to look at some kind of blue-white highlights to, kind of get that idea of the sides where the water is kind of foaming away from the falls. That's kind of fun. And I like this acrylic dry brush because it's kind of, I'm thinking of it as kind of the rush of the water, right? You're really kind of trying to get that spirit of the water and what it looks like. Okay, so now let's get another layer, and let's look at, what do these falls look like? And start getting these kind of so just these kind of, the blue-white highlights, if you will. And have a little more opacity. So opacity is fun because what you're doing then is you're just kind of, it's like a light dab of paint versus, really heavy, thick paint strokes. Okay. And now we're going to go into a little bit more white. And so I'm going to, again, do another layer. And that way I can really quickly turn these layers on or off. Right? So all these layers can quickly be turned on or off and, repositioning what I like or don't like. And I think that's important just to be able to, quickly, audition things and see if, what's working, what's not working. So this is nice. I like this white highlight. That's really coming in nicely. Right, so just kind of painting through, getting all the kind of idea of the falls. And I'm going to do another layer, and here we're going to get some of those really dark spots going as well. So I'm going to go pretty light on the opacity, and we're going to get those really kind of dark moments in there, building that area in there where it's those kind of that really dark water pressing in. Right, so that's looking pretty fun so far. So really interesting highlights, painting through the falls. Now what I'm going to do is do another layer, and I want to really try and get this kind of foamy cloud business. So I'm going to get another type of a brush. So we're going to go to probably more, let's try like a watercolor, and we're going to get low opacity again. And this is the fun thing. So I had like acrylic mode. Now I'm kind of going into some watercolor ideas for like, all this mist. So you can, the part of it too is with digital painting is that, you couldn't really do this on a canvas to, have acrylics and oils and watercolors, but you can in the digital world. So you can really kind of maximize the techniques and what's available. And playing with these kind of transparency, translucent type of materials can do. And you can see I'm quickly transforming what was more of a realistic image into getting all this mist done. Right, so I'm just kind of following through a little bit with this brush. So opacity is 21%, and I'm just continuing through to get all of these elements kind of painted over, putting a bit of my style into the clouds and stuff. And I'm liking what I'm getting with with that. So color-wise, I'm going to go maybe just a little bit more on the white side here as we get to these clouds over here. And again, just putting a little bit of style into like everything that's up on the top here. Okay, that's pretty neat. And now I'm going to get some of those more dark moments, kind of those dark grays in the clouds. Oops, and just a Command Z. And now what I'm going to do again is just get another layer so I can put some of those shadows into its own layer. So here we can see build some of that kind of dark cloud formation that was happening there. A little bit is happening in here. A little bit is happening over here. That's pretty fun. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'm going to go down to the bottom here where I have just the photo, and you can see that's without the photo, and here's with the photo, right? So it's really complementing itself nicely. And I'm going to do another layer here. Now this is going to be a layer, you can see it's underneath all the other layers, and that's key. So it's layer 10, but it's underneath all these other layers. We can rename these as well. So what I want to do is just click on that layer, and now I want to get kind of a nice big the blue wash of the sky here. And let's see. we'll just get a really big, make the width really big. You can see that circle is showing me kind of the preview. That's probably too much. The opacity is too much on that, so I'm just going to lower that. And yeah, it really helps to kind of, you know, put a little bit of our style to it. Abstract that original photo into these interesting washes. All right, so that's pretty cool. So I got this interesting sky, and the background, the bottom there is nice and blue, and the water and everything we're capturing. So now I'm just going to go back up to here, layer 9, click on that, and what we want to do now is work a little bit on the sides here, on the cliffs here, if you will. So you know, here, what is the cliff? We want to find that kind of brownish zone here. That might work. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And now I'm going to just lower the opacity, and we'll just go a bit darker here. So a little bit of kind of shadows within here. Make the size a bit smaller, and maybe now we'll get a little bit of some highlights. Not liking that as much. That's kind of neat, just getting a little bit of those cliffs there. And I'm going to go a little darker again and just kind of blend those in a bit. That's pretty nice now. Okay, and so that's good for that layer. And now what we're going to do is just get another layer here, just to do a little bit of this bottom rocks that are kind of on the green zone here. Oops. And we're going to just get another layer going for that. So, you know, pretty low opacity. I have 35%. I have a 50-point brush so that you can see kind of the circle area that it's covering. And I'm just kind of playing with what's there because we like those details. They look pretty neat, actually. I'm just kind of putting a little bit of this paint, you know, these kind of strokes right above it here. Do a little bit of the trees over here. Okay, and now let's get a little bit of, that's nice. We'll do another layer. And probably do something more like that. And now what do we want to do? Just a little bit of the top. The trees there that we see a bit on the top there. Right, so we're getting that acrylic kind of paint look on the top there. And I just want to kind of get us through here as we near our time here. But see, I'm just getting these layers in there, really interesting. You know, getting this kind of greenish paint happening within. So you can still see the photo. There's definitely, we definitely have some realism happening, and you can see those strokes as they happen there within. Go over here and just get a little bit more of this zone here. There we go. So that's looking pretty neat. So that's, how we've, how do we abstract and how do we paint over Niagara Falls. So I'm just going to get one more layer here. We can do a little bit of this building there that we see in the background. Get a bit of that gray. It's kind of neat. And you can see just by painting over it, we're seeing those details underneath, and it's still like popping through. And then maybe one more thing, that Made of the Mist, we have that boat just down there, so we might want to just give that a little bit of a little bit of attention there. Just make us aware of the boat. It's kind of neat, a little bit of boat highlight. So we got our essence of our watercolors and our brush strokes and everything. So that's, yeah, that takes us through. So now let's just look at what this does when we break it down. This is, I think, the fun part of the layers. So watch as we, we got kind of this finished piece, and now let's unclick these things. So we got our boat, we got the building, we got that green grass up there, we got the shoreline, we got these cliffs here, we got some of the clouds there, we got the mist, we have these highlights of the waterfalls, slowly taking this all the way, blue sky, and that's it. So we started from our photo, right? And let's look at the layers again. So we painted we got some sky there, we got our water layers. I think this is always neat just to kind of see the process of how we built everything up, painted over. And I'm pretty happy with what we've achieved in a little bit of time. And at the same time, I really feel like, I was able to understand more about what this scene is like, right? Like, what are all the details? Because it makes you think and look and interpret things. So you get a real sense of it. And it's a great reference, and it's a great challenge to try to, paint and go through the what's there in the photo, and then taking it from there. So one of the last things that we would need to do is then we can just export. So we can go File. First, I will save this. I'll go Save As. I'm going to just put it right in here. I'm going to call it Niagara Falls Painting. Right. So now what I've done is I've saved it as an Affinity Designer project. So that's done and saved locally. So now it can be reopened. And then the last thing I'm going to do is export. And here we can choose all the different formats. So we have PNG, JPEG, and so on. So you can use whatever you need. You can export this as a Photoshop document. You can export this as an EPS, like an Illustrator document, PDF. So for our purposes, I'm going to just get it out as a JPEG. I'm going to hit Export, and I'm going to just go Niagara Falls Painting. I'll say yes. Let's access that. Right, and then, so what does that look like? Designer project. And if I double click Niagara Falls Painting, there it is. So it's exported as a JPEG, and that can then be shared. So I can post this online, and share it, and and make that work. So that's the final out of the software. This is the file. So it's always important, once you finish, save your project, and then do an export. If you want to share it, post this on your social media or share it. And it's really fun. So think about, you can do this with pretty much any kind of photo. You can do painting over photos of family and friends, landscapes, nature, pets. Even you can pre-abstract photos. Maybe there's double exposures, or you did something with a photo and you want to work on it from there. So that's always cool too. One more thing I did want to show, and we didn't get to it yet, but let me just show this quickly, is if we want to, we can also do like effects directly to the photos. So we can make put these different kind of tints to it. So you go under styles, and we can make that photo do different things, and help stylize it even further in the photo world. So you can stylize the photo, then paint over it as well. So these are those kind of elements, 80s disco. We can kind of blows it up like that. It can be pixelated, gold rust, right? So it kind of gives it a sepia tint. So you can quickly do those kinds of effects with it as well. And I think that's a really cool thing about the software. So yeah, I got a little bit of time here. So let's just look at, if there's any questions, I'll just open up the Q&A. Let's have a look at that. Let's see here. Yeah, if you have any questions. Again, the main thing is this software is Affinity Designer. We've taken the photo, placed it, added some layers, and it's best to work in those layers. So you click on the layer, then you can do your painting, and everything is contained within the layer. Start a new layer, do your painting, and that next batch is contained in that layer. So you want to kind of do it in elements, like the water, canyons, do element by element, and then you're really in a good spot to turn things on or off. And you saw we had about 13 layers, 14 layers, that pretty reasonable, but within that there's probably 1,000 brush strokes. So you want to do those layers to keep that contained in there. So always doing layers and painting. Now in terms of then we did the export, and then we can always take some photos with your iPad and then do it all on the iPad. So it's a really great tool to try it out. So I really would encourage everyone to try this out. See what it's like. And then, here's a couple questions. Okay, so can you support video files? So you can export video files and bring them in as but you have to just place images. So you can't place video, but you can definitely work in a video format. And then, so layers you can drag around within the stacks if there's each stack of layers, or even moving them in their order. So the top is the top layer. So always think of it as pages of paper, right? So the bottom layer, and then they stack up onto each other. So you can move those around just by clicking, dragging them up or down. So yeah, really good questions. But you can export as a video file. So we can do it as a full HD format, or work in an HD file format, do your painting so it's in a video file format. So hopefully that helped to answer that question. But perfect. Okay, so that looks like that's it for all our questions there. So definitely want to thank everyone for joining us. Want to thank all our partners in making this happen once again. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts. We have our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. And please definitely check more of our workshops out on our YouTube channel. And this will be available to rewatch as well. So definitely rewatch it, get inspired, try doing this very fun, simple exercise to get you started in Affinity Designer and get started in digital painting. And then who knows where it goes from there. You can just keep exploring. And again, I'm not a painter by trade, but I was able to get through this and work well with it, and kind of really inspiring and exciting. So I hope that will inspire everyone too. And we're going to be doing some more mixed media projects and master classes coming up. So stay tuned. Check out our website. You can always email me, tom@tbmcs.ca, if you have any questions or comments you want to tell us. And I hope to see you guys at the next session. So have a great rest of the day. Take care.